Hello and welcome to the programme which looks at the Holy Land. I am Paul Calvert. Psalm 55, verse 16 from the New King James Bible says this: "As for me, I will call upon God, and the Lord shall save me." I'm with David Lang from IsraellyCool. Now, David, what is IsraellyCool?
IsraellyCool is a blog that has now turned into a non-profit. It's basically my pride and joy. It's my life's work. It's my passion. IsraellyCool is a pro-Israel website at the moment, and it uses different techniques to get the word out, not just the regular posting facts, but employs humor. And basically, the whole purpose of IsraellyCool is not to preach to the choir when it comes to the Israeli-Arab conflict, as well as the Jewish people.
And when did you start this website?
I started in 2003, so over 19 years ago.
And what sort of stories do you cover on the website?
Oh, well, okay, so it's sort of morphed over the years. In the beginning, actually my first post was about Shane Warne in the cricket. It was completely different. But it's obviously now more to do with Israel-related stories or things to do with Judaism and Jewish people, but mostly on Israel. There's a main focus these days, unfortunately, because of the need, on tackling anti-Semitism, because that's just reared its ugly head in a big, bad way.
Is this a job or is this a passion for you?
I'm glad you asked that. It's definitely a passion. It is now my full-time job, but because I love doing it so much and I get up in the morning with that spring in my step and it's my passion, it doesn't feel like a job.
So is this a sense of that what you're doing is actually working just to advocate for the nation of Israel?
Yeah, no, I do believe it's working, and thankfully I get a lot of feedback, and the best feedback that I get are from people that weren't necessarily pro-Israel, or even in some cases people that were actually anti-Semitic, and they've contacted me and they've changed their views. It's sort of like the Talmud teaching that if you save one life, it's like saving the entire world. To change one opinion is like changing the entire world in a way.
Do you think that Israel gets a hard time in the regular press?
Where do I start with that? I don't think. I know that Israel, as someone that monitors the media, we have a horrid time in the regular press, which is kind of funny given the anti-Semitic trope that we apparently own the media. If there's proof that we don't own the media, it should be that.
Yeah. That's what I was going to ask. Do you think a lot of it actually is a root of anti-Semitism? That's why the media hate Israel so much?
I think that not just the media, but in general, the root cause of hatred of Israel is hatred of the Jewish people. And I'm not just saying this as someone that cries wolf about anti-Semitism. I'm very careful about who I think is anti-Semitic. But as part of what I do on my website, I actually go into social media posts and writings of people that claim to only be anti-Zionist or anti-Israel. And I find some of the most horrid, verifiably anti-Semitic junk. So therefore I have, let's say, quantitative data to prove that in most cases anti-Zionism is anti-Semitism.
Now on your website you have special topics where you have anti-Semitism and history. Tell us a bit more about that there.
Well, not just anti-Semitism and history, but the history series I think you're talking about. I basically analyse old articles. My favourite are from the New York Times, because the New York Times is one of those media outlets which is not very friendly towards Israel these days, but you'll find that in the early part of the 1900s, and even a bit after the establishment of the State of Israel, they were saying things they couldn't get away with. They were referring, for instance, to the Palestinians, but the Palestinians at the time were the Jews. There's one famous, you've probably seen it, it's made its way around the internet, Arab boycott Palestinian goods, which was, I think, from about 1939 or maybe 47. I can't remember. Back then, it just shows how far down the gurgler the media have gotten since then. It's not just about the media. So the history series just looks at, all sorts of different things. One thing I like to do with it, for instance, is when you see all these anti-Israel people posting Palestinian coins or old things which say Palestine, or my favourite, which you've probably seen, is that 1937 soccer match between Australia and Palestine, where the Israel haters try to use that to say, look, Israel never existed, Palestinian. But for instance, in the case of that soccer match, you look at all the soccer players, it was like Maccabi Tel Aviv, they all got Jewish names and they've even got a Star of David on their uniform. Yeah. So that's the sort of thing I use. I use history to try to make my point, to say, listen, you guys are literally on the wrong side of history.
And also with some of the coins, they say a coin from 1920, it's got Palestine on it, but who issued that coin? Yeah,
and it's worse than that. In the case of the coins and the currency, if you look back, and this is something I wrote about, the Palestinian Arabs of the time, really were opposed to that currency. And not only that, on the coin you have the Hebrew Aleph Yud, Eretz Israel. So they're just shooting themselves in the foot. But the problem is most people don't know this. So that's where I think I'm trying to play a part, is to educate people and show them these things.
Yeah. So do you think that an Israeli can find a coin that's older than 1920 with Israel on it?
Oh, well, I think there are some archaeological finds, right, from the temple days. So,
so the Israeli coins trump the Palestinian coins?
Yeah, I mean, if it was a poker game, yes.
And tell us a bit more about what you do as far as anti-Semitism is concerned.
No, as I mentioned, I basically try to tackle anti-Semitism full on, which is one of the things you see a lot more now on social media, but I'm proud to say I think I pioneered this technique, whereas rather than just sort of be defensive, I actually go after people. I go after people that identify as anti-Semites, and the idea is to mock, use humour. I try to use humour, at least, shame them, and a lot of times they get into trouble in terms of their employment. If they're doing things, they're inciting hatred against the Jewish people, just like any racist would if they're doing that. And they're, mostly my readers are the ones reporting them. So it's basically tackling them. Sometimes I get into I'm getting into the sewers with them. And it does take a toll on you. But I find it incredibly important because we have to do something about it. We have to learn from the past. That anti-Semitism, when it doesn't go away or isn't combated, manifests itself in the most horrendous ways.
Do you think anti-Semitism is bad today?
It's terrible today, absolutely. I mean, it's as bad as it's ever been. Obviously, you could say, well, wait a minute, Nazi Germany, that's the worst, or other times in history. But one of the worst things about it today is it's now almost a trendy social justice positive thing to do is to be anti-Semitic, because people don't recognise it as anti-Semitism. And if you're not anti-Semitic, okay, and again, it's not outwardly anti-Semitic according to these people, if you're not that way, then you're made to feel like you're an actually bad person. It's sort of like the opposite of, it's a very amoral way of thinking.
What's the definition of anti-Semitism?
Hatred of the Jewish people. And this can manifest itself in terms of hatred of the Jewish collective in Israel, the Jewish state. That's why anti-Zionism is by definition anti-Semitic.
How would you actually define that? Because you may have political issues that are there that you disagree with. So is that anti-Semitism?
No, absolutely not. And I think that the International Holocaust Remembrance Working Definition, the IHRA Working Definition, gives some good pointers. And one of the things it says there, which is it's twisted by the haters, is it doesn't say all criticism of Israel is anti-Semitic. We know it's not. No pro-Israel person is going to tell you, or anyone worth their weight in gold, or worth their salt, rather, is going to tell you that it's anti-Semitic. Robust debate is positive. Who are the worst critics of the Israeli government?
United Nations?
Well, no, I was going to say Israelis, but okay. So, no, it's when you delegitimize the entire state of Israel as a Jewish state, that's when you're in anti-Semitic territory. And that's, when you're using tropes, anti-Semitic tropes, but you're just using the word Zionist or Israeli and not the word Jew, that doesn't negate the anti-Semitism of what you're saying.
Now, you also have libels. Tell us a bit about that.
Well, libels, basically, it's when the haters or anti-Semites are basically libeling the Jewish state or Jews. And we see it on a grand scale these days. They'll take, it could range from anything from a picture of a kid in Syria with burn marks on them and passing that off as a Palestinian kid saying, look what the Israeli army did, to basically inventing, we saw that, I think it was Mahmoud Abbas a number of years ago, claimed that Jewish settlers were poisoning the Palestinian wells. And this sort of has echoes of the blood libels of old, from the Middle Ages, which were, against the Jews. So it's a real business. People are really dabbling in these blood libels, using the word Israel or Zionist, but these are really anti-Semitic blood libels.
Did you see it during the time of Corona as well?
Oh, yes. Oh, absolutely, yes. We're seeing that a lot. It's ramped up during the time of Corona. They're saying that, we're seeing the libel now, that actually Corona is a Jewish thing, that we are the ones that launched it on the world. There's all sorts of crazy conspiracy theories out there. Yeah, so yeah, definitely more than ever during COVID.
Yeah. Do you have people today actively working on social media to destroy Israel and its reputation of Jews and the Jewish state?
Yeah, absolutely. People are doing that. Whether it's the electronic intifada, bigger kind of organisations. By the way, they're very well funded. One thing that I just exposed recently was this, this mapping project, that they targeted the Jewish institutions in Boston. You know what I'm referring to? There was this whole thing. It's like a map. The Zionists were claiming that it's just showing, to dismantle the Zionist machine in the States. But it was targeting like Jewish schools, synagogues. It's horrendous. It was so horrendous that even members of the BDS movement, who are very anti-Israel, tried to dissociate themselves from it because they got a bit scared. It made them look bad. Not because it's immoral, but that's another story. Anyway, it turns out, based on some research that I did, but also other people were involved with, that it looks like it's got Iranian footprints all over it. And there's also another organisation, or let's say social media account called Project Nemesis, that names and shames Jewish people. I'm on there as well. And that's got Iranian footprints. So I believe that it's not just, let's say, grassroots, there's astroturfing going on. And even well-funded Iranian government is behind a lot of these efforts, I believe.
Does boycotting Israel actually hurt the Palestinians as well?
It really does, it shoots them in the foot. You can even ask, you've probably spoken to a lot of Palestinians. One of the famous cases or infamous cases is SodaStream, where all the pressure that was brought to bear on SodaStream, they had to close a plant and many Palestinians lost their work. And that was a model of coexistence. That's what we need here. We need more of that. And I would venture to say, I don't have the data, and you obviously around Palestinians a lot more than I am, but I would imagine that most average Palestinians, they want to work, they want everything that we want. They want to make a living. Boycotting does hurt them.
Well, many Palestinians come through the checkpoint back into working in Jerusalem, don't they?
And it just reminds you, this whole Ben & Jerry's kerfuffle. Now, if you're Ben & Jerry's who are going to stop the ice cream to residents of Judea and Samaria, and that includes Jerusalem, where we are now, the old city, but aren't Palestinians also going to get hurt? They're also eating these ice creams.
Yeah.
So it definitely hurts them more than it hurts Israel.
Yeah. What are other people saying about your website? And are you getting good reviews?
Well, I get both, don't I? Obviously because I go after the bad guys, the anti-Semites, the Israel haters, I get a lot of hate mail. I've had threats, and also the nasty things possible. They tried to get me fired from my job when I had my other job. But on the plus side, I get to meet people like you and very positive people, and I get to meet people I otherwise wouldn't. One of the most interesting people I befriended was my good friend Fanny Al-Sharari, who lives in Dubai. So even before the Abraham Accords, years before, this is going back 10, 11 years, I befriended this guy in Dubai that had been brought up anti-Israel, just by virtue of his education. We got to know each other on Twitter. One of the good parts of social media is you get to make these connections, and we've become like brothers. Very, very close. He's a devout Muslim, I'm a devout Jew. Could make a movie about us at some point, I guess. The Odd Couple.
Why do you do what you do?
Well, one, I do really enjoy it. But why do I enjoy it? Because I get to use my creative side. I like to use humour. I love to write. It's very cathartic in a very frustrating world that we live in today. I get, as you can probably relate to, because you seem like a creative guy as well. But more than that, I believe I'm actually making a difference just based on the feedback that I'm getting. And from what I can see, it's like the water penetrating the rock. Little drops of water over many, many years doesn't look like it might do much to the rock, right? But it can smooth the rock and really penetrate the rock. Yeah. Very slowly and slowly. And I'm not the only one who represents the water drops. There are many, many more people out there, like-minded individuals that are also part of the effort to fight back against anti-Semitism and hatred of not just the Jewish people, but of God.
That's another question I was going to ask. Are you making a difference?
Time will tell. I believe I'm making a difference, because if I didn't believe I was making a difference, I probably wouldn't do what I'm doing. Even though I enjoy it, I put so much effort into it, it would just be relegated to a hobby that I wouldn't be spending so much time on. I still would do it on some level, but I spend so much time on this because I really do believe I'm making a difference. I'm trying to bring more goodness into the world.
Do you get to meet lots of interesting people?
As I said, yeah. Oh, absolutely. So I've met, besides Thani and yourself, of course, I'm friendly with even some Hollywood celebrities, famous musicians, comedians, who are like-minded individuals that like my work, like what I do. Yeah. And I like, of course, what they do. I can be a bit of a fan of theirs as well. So I've definitely gotten to meet some fascinating people.
What's your prayer for IsraellyCool?
My prayer for IsraellyCool is I can stay on the path and that I can grow and prosper. And what that means is, ultimately, it helps in the fight against anti-Semitism and the delegitimization of Israel and the Jewish people, and have a very strong impact on that.
And what's the website for people who'd like to know more?
IsraellyCool.com, and I'm on all the socials, of course, but if you go to IsraellyCool.com, you'll check out my work, and you can get to the social media stuff as well.
Okay, David, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Paul.
Thank you for joining us today. Pray that God will move by his mighty power in the Holy Land and bring his peace.